welcome back to my channel. This is Teacher D at your service. Enjoy watching the video. Okay guys, I'm going to discuss to you the conditional statements and the biconditional statements. Now let's start with this. As you can see, I am using here the screen recording so that you can see and read with me the statements, and you will be able to understand what I am trying to discuss here. Let's start. What is a conditional statement? A conditional statement are the statements that can be expressed as if-then statements. So this consists of two parts. We have the hypothesis, which is in the if clause, and we also have the conclusion in the then clause. For example, if it rains, then they cancel school. If it rains is the hypothesis and they cancel school is the conclusion. Okay, see that one? You may read it here with me on the screen. Remember your Filipino teacher taught you about the sanhi at bunga? So ito yon, ano? So ang sanhi ay ang hypothesis at ang bunga ay ang conclusion. Now, another example. If COVID-19 stops, then we will be back to school. Our hypothesis is if COVID-19 stops, and our conclusion, then we will be back to school. See, did you get it? Now, let's try to do this statement. Identify the hypothesis and the conclusion in the following statements. Letter A. We have here, if 2 points lie in the plane, then the line containing them lies in a plane. So our solution to that hypothesis is the points lie in the plane. Remember that hypothesis is the if clause. Those clause after the word if, or the phrase after the word if. Now, our conclusion is then, or the clause after the word then. The line containing them lies in the plane. Okay, now letter B. If 2, open parenthesis, x plus 5, close parenthesis is equal to 12, then x is equal to 1. Our hypothesis is, okay, 2x plus 5 is equal to 12. And our conclusion, the clause after the word then, x is equal to 1. Letter C. Now try it on yourself. Try it on your own. All these prizes will be yours if the prize is right. What is the hypothesis? Okay, the hypothesis is the clause after the word if. So the answer is the prize is right. And our conclusion is all these prizes will be yours. Now let's try to rewrite the following statements in the if-then form. So, by the way, in rewriting these statements, you may add or deduct words or phrases to make the thought of the statement complete and correct. So, in Tagalog, pwede kang magdagdag o magbawas ng mga salita o grupo ng mga salita para mabuo ang ideya ng iyong pangungusap. So, in this, let's have example letter A. We have a quadrilateral is a polygon. So our solution for this is if a figure is a quadrilateral, then it is a polygon. So as you can see, except from adding the word if and then to our hypothesis and conclusion, we also use the word figure. Why? Because if you are going to write only if a quadrilateral, then is a polygon. So your sentence will not be correct, or it has no complete thought. That's the reason why we use the word figure. So if a figure is a quadrilateral, then it is a polygon. Next, letter B. A prime number has 1 and itself as factors. To write this in if-then form, let us identify where is the hypothesis. The hypothesis is a prime number. So therefore, our solution will be if a number is prime, so we use the word number here, we add, now, then its factors are 1 and itself. Okay, see that? Next, letter C, a square is a rectangle. Okay, under the conditional statement, we have the converse, inverse, and the contrapositive. So for we can define the converse, inverse, and the contrapositive statement as we start in conditional statement. So in conditional statement, we have here if P, then Q. The converse of this conditional statement is if Q, then P. So, binaliktad lang. Ano? So, as you can see, this figure I have here, in our original statement, we have if P, then Q. Now, to find the converse of that conditional statement, you're just going to switch the hypothesis and the conclusion of your conditional statement so that it will become if Q, then P. So you just switch, binaliktad lang. Now, to find or write the inverse statement of a conditional statement, you're just going to put not, the word not, on your hypothesis and on your conclusion. Okay, that's why inverse, the negation of your original statement. Now, for the contrapositive statement, to find the contrapositive statement or to write a contrapositive statement, you're just going to switch your conclusion and your hypothesis in your inverse statement. Okay, so as you can see here, we have if not Q, then not P. Okay, so this solution is connected to each other. So, magsisimula siya sa original na statement, tapos babalik na rin, magiging if Q, then P. So, yun yung converse. Tapos, babalik ka sa original para makuha mo yung inverse. Lalagyan mo lang ng not, yung hypothesis at yung conclusion mo. Ngayon, from your inverse, makakabuo ka ng contrapositive na conditional statement as you switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. Okay, let's try to do these following examples. So if the statement is true, then the contrapositive is true. If the converse is true, then the inverse is logically true. So you're going to identify first if it is true or false. For example, so the number that ends with 2 is an even number. Is that true or false? So therefore, that is true. Another example, if the number ends with 0, then it's divisible by 10. Is that true or false? That is true. Another example, if number ends with 3, therefore or then it is an even number. Is that true or false? So it's a false statement. Okay, so I hope guys you understand how to identify if the statement is true. You just have to rely on the rules and basically the natural way. Next, let's use the example, if it rains, then they cancel school, which our hypothesis is if it rains, and our conclusion is they cancel school here. Now, to form our converse statement, as what I have mentioned earlier, you're just going to switch the position of your hypothesis and your conclusion. So, yung conclusion mo, ilalagay mo sa unahan, tapos ang ilalagay mo sa hulihan ng statement mo ay yung hypothesis. So, the converse will be if it rains, then they cancel school. So, the converse will be if they cancel school, then it rains. Okay? Next. For your inverse naman, what I have told you earlier, lalagyan mo lang ng not. Yung original is statement mo. So, magiging, if it does not rain, then they do not cancel school. See that? You just add the word not or does not to your hypothesis and conclusion. That's already your inverse statement. For the last one, we have the contrapositive statement. For the contrapositive, you're just going to look at your inverse statement. You're going to switch the position of hypothesis and conclusion. Ilalagay mo sa unahan ang iyong conclusion, which is this one, do not cancel school. And then, ilalagay mo sa dulo ng statement mo yung hypothesis, which is if it does not rain. Remember, the negation using your inverse statement. So that will be the contrapositive statement is if they do not cancel school, then it does not rain. If they do not cancel school, then it does not rain. Okay? So I hope that three statement is clear to you. If you have more questions, you may write your comments below and I'm gonna PM you for that. Before I continue with my biconditional statement, so let me just first figure out these mathematical statements with you. The original given statement is if two angles are congruent, then they have the same measure. To formulate this converse statement, you're just going to interchange the position of your conclusion and hypothesis. So your hypothesis here is two angles, if two angles are congruent, and this is your conclusion. They have the same measure. So to formulate your converse, this must be the first one to write in the statement, and this will be the second one. So it will be if two angles have the same measure, then they are congruent. So check. Next. For our inverse, as what I have told you, you're gonna go back with your original statement and just put not. Okay? You're just going to put not here on your hypothesis and conclusion. So, if two angles are not, so lalagyan mo lang here ng not, congruent, then they don't have the same measure. Okay? So, here. If two angles are not congruent, then they do not have the same measure. Check. Okay? Next. For the contrapositive, if two angles do not have the same measure, then they are not congruent. How did you get to this statement? Simply, you just interchange this hypothesis and conclusion of your inverse statement. Okay? Here. So, as simple as the biconditional statements, it is formed when the statements have the same truth value. So if a conditional statement and its converse are both true, then they can be formed or joined into a single statement called biconditional statement. So ibig sabihin kapag ang iyong conditional statement ay truth at ang iyong converse ay truth, then therefore pwede mo siyang pagsamahin into a single statement. We call that as biconditional statement. So biconditional statement can be expressed as P if and only if Q. Okay, so this phrase is abbreviated as if or IFF. So consider the following conditional statement and its converse. Conditional statement: if a polygon is convex, then the lines containing the sides of a polygon do not contain points on its interior. Converse statement: if the lines containing the sides of a polygon do not contain points in its interior, then the polygon is convex. Now, since this two statement is true, therefore we can form this into a single statement. So that's the biconditional. The statement will be a polygon is convex and if and only if the lines containing the sides of a polygon do not contain points in its interior. See that? So you just simply write if and only if. Next, let's have some more examples here. Let's take a look with these following examples of biconditional statements. Letter A, our original statement or our conditional statement: if a plus 7 is equal to 12, then a is equal to 5. Now, to solve this, our conditional statement is this one here. Now, our converse statement is if a is equal to 5, then a plus 7 is equal to 12. Since our conditional is true and our converse is true, we can write this and combine this into a single statement, which we call as the biconditional statement. We can write this down as a plus 7 is equal to 12 if and only if a is equal to 5. Yes. Next, letter B. If a triangle has at least two congruent sides, then it is an isosceles triangle. So, our converse statement for that is if a triangle is an isosceles triangle, then it has at least two congruent sides. How did we come up with this kind of converse statement? Because we just simply switch our hypothesis and our conclusion right here. This one and this. Okay, so since our conditional statement is true and our converse statement is true as well, we can combine this into a single statement. So our conditional statement will be a triangle is an isosceles if and only if it has at least two sides congruent. Next, for letter C, conditional statement. If a number is odd, then it is a prime number. So our conditional statement is not true because there are odd numbers that are not prime. For example, is 9. 9 is an odd number, but it's not prime number because it has 3 and 1 and as well as 9 as its factor. So it's not a prime, but it's an odd number. Another 15. 15 is an odd number, but it's not a prime number because our conditional statement itself is not correct or it's a false. Therefore, we cannot formulate our converse statement. And also, if that is the case, we'll not be able to formulate our biconditional statement as well. So I hope you will be able to identify if the statement is true or false. Basically, it's with the rules, that existing rules, so that you will be able to formulate your statement correctly. So that's all for today. So that's all for today, guys. Before I end this video, shout out to those students who requested: JV Cuero, Raz, Kent, Daniel, and who else did I forget? Sophia, and to my students. Hi.